Hello TACACS.net users. My name is Richard and I'm going to show you how to set up TACACS.net to use Windows Active Directory as the backend user database. One of our primary strengths is our close integration with Active Directory without requiring any middleware. This close integration makes our server fast and stable and minimizes service affecting issues that can lead to user aggravation and angry phone calls in the middle of the night. TACACS.net integrates with a number of identity platforms, but Active Directory is the most commonly used. When TACACS.net is configured to use Active Directory as the identity server, it enables users to use the same credentials to log in to other network resources, enabling single sign-on. It is strongly recommended to install TACACS.net on the same server that holds the user database. For AD, that would be an existing or new domain controller or a read-only domain controller. This minimizes the chances of a service-affecting event if there is a network issue between the TACACS Plus service and the identity service. Now let's take a look at the user group configuration for Active Directory groups. For best results, use the same name as the security group name in Active Directory. This makes setup, management, and troubleshooting easier. The LDAP server element is where you define the directory server IP address, and port Active Directory uses the LDAP protocol for authentication, and the default port is 389. You can also use secure LDAP, but that's an advanced configuration and out of scope for this video. The LDAP user directory subtree is where you enter the distinguished name of the directory subtree that contains all users. You can only configure specific groups in Active Directory. The server will not authenticate to subordinate groups. This is by design to enforce least privilege. The LDAP group name is the name of the Active Directory user group that corresponds to this user group. You can use the complete distinguished name or just the AD name of the group in this parameter. LDAP access username and LDAP access user password is a user account that is used to authenticate the TACACS.net service to the Active Directory server. This should be an administrator account created just for use with TACACS.net to simplify administration and troubleshooting. When it comes to determining the attributes needed for the directory subtree and LDAP group name elements, the easiest way to do this is by comparing the output of dsquery and our built-in TACDiag tool. TACDiag is a utility introduced in TACACS.net version 2.6.0 that is designed to diagnose and troubleshoot AD and LDAP connection issues. Let me show you what I mean. First, we'll need the output of this command. dsquery user-sam ID and the username of a user that belongs to the group you want to use in the TACACS user group. Then you want to put the domain root, which is the last two entries here. dc equals TACACS, dc equals net in the LDAP user directory subtree element. Make sure that LDAP group name is left empty and you make your way back over to the terminal. Run the TACDiag command by typing TACDiag-u and the same username and enter. Before I edit the configuration, I want to talk about some of the information in the output. First, TACDiag tells us the user and user group it's testing against. Then we get a message, in this case, that the Active Directory server is accessible. If it weren't, we would see a different message. Then we see whether or not the LDAP access username and password are valid. In this case, it is. If it wasn't, we would see a different message. Then we get two elements that are also in the configuration, LDAP group name and LDAP user directory subtree. The LDAP group name shows a list of names of user groups the user will pass authentication against. For this demo, I want the users in the NOC tech group to belong here, so I'll type that in the configuration. Now, we can take the output from the LDAP user directory subtree and compare that against the output from dsquery. Comparing these two will tell us how high up the directory subtree we can go and still pass authentication for this user and others in the group. Starting from the right, we move left one attribute at a time and stop once we get a mismatch. This tells us we can go as high in the subtree as the last matching attribute. In this case, we can only put the domain root and not cn equals users. Now that we have the correct subtree and group, I'll run TACDiag again. This time, TACDiag tells us the user will pass authentication with our configured attributes. Next, I'll confirm that by using our built-in TACTest client that can be run from the command prompt. For more information about TACTest and how to use it, refer to the TACTest video tutorial linked in the description. So there we have a successful authentication for user JDoe, and we've configured our TACACS configuration works with our Active Directory server. Alright, so that's it for configuring Active Directory user groups with TACACS.net and our TACDiag utility. Thanks for watching.